Thank you, Caitlin. Good afternoon, all. And here we are on the roughly the midpoint of October. And it begins to feel like time is getting short already. But I think that we have a fair amount of things to talk about today. And I think that the first item should be our council RFP. Tom, I got a couple of comments in from you. I think it's a good idea to get to actually attach the local law to the RFP and to mention that we're going to be doing a separate RFP for mapping services. And I don't know how people feel about where the RFP is now. Are we approaching the point where we're going to be ready to actually issue it? Any comments on it?
I have a comment, Larry. Joan Ramsey.
Sure, John.
In certain places, for example, in the scope of services 4.1, we have general, legal, and municipal support. The word municipal support to the commission includes but not limited to that sentence. I would like to know what the body says about the municipal bodies. Are we going to limit our respondents or proposals to have worked with a municipal body or municipalities? Because I think it's one thing to have a general law, it's another thing to have it specific to a municipality. So I'm looking at 3.4 and also 4.1, where it uses the words municipal support and municipal bodies, and in 3.5 municipalities.
In 4.1 in the last version, I had actually taken out the municipal qualifier to support. But I think that while it's not necessary, my personal view would be that it may not be necessary to limit respondents to those who have advised municipalities, that I think that is a valuable asset that probably should be taken into account by the reviewing committee. That would be my thought anyway. Yeah, Patricia.
I just was also, I had looked at that piece and saw it also in conjunction with 3.10, where it says, including conflicts with the County of Albany, its elected officials and county officer, agents, employees, which in my read of municipal support, the municipality is the county itself. So I also had a similar question in that, what is the scope? Is it going to include just us and not the county itself, right? Not the legislature or any portion other of the county, but it would instead defend us against conflicts with that municipality. Is that the right reading that others drew upon?
I think that we are seeking counsel to represent the commission. And I think that that is not the same thing as a representation of the County of Albany. Mm-hmm. But I think that it is possible that there could be conflicts between within representation between the commission and the county. So that was actually one of Pat's suggested modifications on the conflict side only, though.
Sorry, I got myself muted. I couldn't figure out how to unmute. Yes, my thoughts there were that while somebody may have a conflict have zero conflicts with the membership of the commission. They may have pretty bad conflicts with, if hypothetically they were the personal attorney of one of the legislators who ultimately gets to vote on this.
Yeah.
So they might not know that those conflicts also should be considered.
I think it was a good point, Pat. Thank you. Tom, did you have something?
No, that was pretty much it. I think we got to make it clear in the RFP that this person works for the commission. But obviously, any conflicts with the county need to be brought out and mentioned so that that could be part of the decision-making process. While Pat is here, I do want to ask Pat, you put a section in your response that said that experience in municipal redistricting might be very limiting in terms of the number of firms that could respond, because it's been so long since people have done redistricting, almost 10 years. And it might be difficult for a lot of firms to cite experience in that, and a lot of lawyers who weren't in practice 10 years ago as well. I don't know how to resolve that though in here, because I think do want to say something that would give credit to someone who has done municipal redistricting without restricting it strictly to firms that have done that. Am I reading your comments correctly that way, Pat?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm now in the meeting twice and trying to open up the RFP. I just wanted to note that it hasn't happened in years, because it happens every 10 years. So you definitely want that as a category, in my mind, you definitely want that as a category of a qualification. Someone who's already done it seems logically extremely qualified, but you are necessarily limiting the pool of if that is a sole qualification.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, right now, I think it's at 20, is it 25%? I apologize, my computer's just slow to open this. Is it graded on that single qualification? Is that?
I split it out to 10% on redistricting services and 15% on election and voting law compliance services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that, which is what you did. And you can even with that, you could switch them to be, it could be 20 and 5, it could be 15, 10 the opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, that would seem to answer
Yes.
my question. Thank you.
Okay. Joan, did you have your hand up before?
Yes, because I didn't get a sense of the commission on the question. You removed the municipal on the other page, but municipal is left in 2 other places. And so if it's going to be consistent, the other 2 places, 3.4 and 3.5, have to be removed to be the same as the one that was removed on the other side. And I didn't get I think it should be removed if we're going to be consistent in this language.
My reason for removing it in 4.1, Joan, was that the phrase was general legal and municipal support to the commission. And in all honesty, I didn't know what municipal support was in that context.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was why I deleted it there. If I couldn't define it, then I thought that perhaps it ought not be there. But the other 2 places, I thought it was more appropriate that the experience in working with municipalities could be important.
You don't think it limiting?
If I could just, in
Sure. Go ahead.
3.5, I'm sorry, Joan, where was this?
3.4, 3.4 and 3.5.
It's referring to experience in providing and references from municipalities. That doesn't seem leaving those does not seem inconsistent to me. I agree, Larry, that it seems Like, it makes sense to take it out in the 4.1, but it's, I mean, I would like to know if they have had experience or references from municipalities. That doesn't seem inconsistent. Does it?
I think to make it a qualification of the person, it limits the pools. So if a person has information but has never worked for a municipality, then they won't be submitting anything because they don't have that one qualification.
Don't know that I would say that. I think most attorneys are relatively creative in how they write things.
So I guess the key point here for me then is, would we eliminate anyone who did not have experience with municipal, what they were looking for in 3.4 and 3.5? Experience in providing counsel to municipal bodies, generally in those undertaking redistricting, and provide at least 2 references from municipalities. If they don't have that, would we automatically eliminate them?
No, I mean, you can just write in there if applicable, right? Just put the add a couple of words in there, if applicable. That doesn't mean we're going to exclude people who don't have that experience, but if you have the experience, please include that in the RFP, in the proposal that you send in.
That works
Yeah,
for
and
me.
that-
Sita. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think on that point too, the difference between the prior RFP and this one is the prior one said will have these, whereas ours removed the will language and it's not binding. It's more like informational. And it doesn't look like it was added into the costs. It doesn't look like it was added into the qualifications in terms of the scoring either. So I don't think it would eliminate anybody, at least the way it's written.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to download the latest version of yours, Larry. I had left before I could get it off my computer. So I apologize for that. I think I'm working with an old version right now.
This part of it was not that significantly revised.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom.
Did we talk at all about including a timetable? I had suggested that we let people know who might be responding to this that we really have a goal to try to wrap this up by June with a fallback of September. I wasn't quite sure how to artfully phrase that, but I think in our minds, we really are looking at finishing somewhere in that time frame as a goal. And I did think that that would be important to tell the proposers, because if they're coming up with an answer to our RFP, they probably want to know what our timeline is for that. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
In all honesty, Tom, that may very well have been part of the discussion among the 4 of you before the other 5 of us got here. I don't
think it
recall
was.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I don't
you're right
recall
about that, Larry.
specifically about a timeline. I think it's a good point, though, but I don't think that it has occurred with all 9 of us.
Well, let me recap then what the discussion was. The end product of our work is a draft local law that the county legislature would have to enact. That is a several-month process that requires notice in the newspaper and public hearing and so on. And it seemed to us that it was likely, at least when we were talking about it, that we really want to see these districts and this local law adoption occur by the end of 2022 in order to make it very plain for January of 2023, when the actual election year begins, exactly what these district lines were. And in order to accomplish that, it seemed like it would have to be no later than early September for the legislature to go through all of its steps. And that's making a big assumption here that the legislature takes our recommendation and adopts it, which is by no means guaranteed if you read the local law. I think that several of us felt we'd much prefer to be wrapped up by June. And so we kind of in our minds had this notion of somewhere between June, but a fallback in September. And you're right, that was all the discussion before the rest of the members joined. And I don't think we've had that discussion. We can either have it now or we can defer it to another time. But I think somehow we have to give some notion of what the timeline is to these proposers in order for them to give us an accurate price.
I think it's a good point.
I
Go ahead, Pat.
I do think that's a great point. I just want to note that anyone who would be actually qualified to bid on this will know the timeline because, I mean, if they are a redistricting attorney, they know that this timeline works backwards. It starts from when does it absolutely have to be done by, and then what steps have to be taken to get to that date. So they should know that it needs to be done mid-year next year, because the rest of the process that you just spoke to gets carried out.
And
Can I
I
ask a
think-
question
go
to of the team? When the bid is going to go out, of course, then we have to develop a separate evaluation tool. So back to Joan's point a little bit about the qualifications, we list that experience as a qualification, but it has not yet been wrapped into an evaluation tool, meaning there are a lot of qualifications listed, but it doesn't necessarily mean we have to rate them on that. I know we had already talked about it ad nauseum, but I think that overlay between the bid, the proposal, and the evaluation tool itself is where we can maybe hash out some of those details.
I think you're right, Warren, and clearly the evaluation tool needs to be in place before the bids are due in, so.
Before they're open, they could, yeah,
Mhm,
we tend to, yeah, same thing, but yeah, before they're opened.
mhm.
Larry?
Yes,
it goes-
ma'am.
It goes back to the point of the references. Read what it says the references should be.
Understood. I hear you, Jim. I'll look at that again. Tom?
Do we have a time frame for when we see the RFP going out and how long we'd want it to be out before the responses were due?
Okay, so I talked to purchasing today, and if anyone wants to talk to purchasing, I can get you. Karen Storm is our purchasing agent. So you have to realize that this has to be published in the newspapers. So she gave me the date. If they have it by October 28th or 29th, they can have it published the next Thursday. That's November 4th. You put it out there for 20 days. It comes back as quickly as you all can turn it around is the rest of the process. Then, because of the contract needs to be approved, it'll be it depends on how much they are in terms of the amount. But I don't expect it to be $100,000. So that'll probably land it in the contract administration board, which is the county executive, the chairman of the legislature, and the clerk of the county. And I would probably ask for what we call an emergency, just an otherwise unscheduled CAB meeting, so that we can move it out quickly. So that is the timeline when you're done at this point. The papers are the problem. It's automatically going to delay you probably a week.
Mhm.
So if you can get it done by the end of October, the last working day in October, I think I'm looking at it, it says the 29th. But it may actually be the Thursday that they need it by. It gets published in the following Thursday. It's out there for 2 weeks or 20 days. And then I can't remember if it's 2 weeks or 20 days, but I'll get clarification on that. And then it's back. Purchasing receives it all. They open them. They hand them over. They're graded by the grading, whoever is designated the graders, and then the award is made.
That reminded me of another question I had. I'm sorry. Somewhere later on, I don't know if if we kept it in ours, but the proposals are reviewed by the county Department of Law.
Compliance, right.
Right. What section is that in the new one? Because in the old one, it was very vague. It didn't say what it was for, whether we had access to it, the review. it was so out of context, meaning it said the review had happened, but that's it. There was no context.
It's 2.8.
So, but yeah, all right. So do we know what they're reviewing? Do we look at the results, or is it just top secret for them, or it doesn't have any impact on our work?
There's a reference to it later on towards the end, as I recall, Pat. With a little bit more around it.
Okay, so 2.8, but there's another section?
That's my recollection.
And if it's a compliance
It's
review,
9.3 because I had flagged it too, because I wondered about that as well, Warren.
right, so if it's a compliance, i.e., I don't know, they're looking to see if they're legal or something, but does that mean we
It
would?
says 9.3
ahead.
says proposals will be examined by the Albany County Department of Law with the advice of the Albany County Purchasing Agent to determine whether the requirements of this RFP are met.
That's
Okay.
just so everyone knows, that's pretty standard.
Okay,
And Pat, how
Mainly
long
it's
is
our
that
purchasing
process?
agent.
And to make, did we take out the and to make a recommendation?
We did.
Okay.
Pat, how long
Yeah.
is that process normally for the Albany County Department of Law to review, to see that they meet
It's
the
mainly
requirements?
purchasing.
Sorry?
It's mainly purchasing who does it. But if things come back completely wonky, then it goes to the attorney.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking that in my own head, and maybe this is something that we do offline, I think we need to create a timeline and some tasks around that, like, you know, when is the, and I mean, there's the big picture and then there's just the RFP stuff. So, and I don't know, I don't have my notes from the last meeting, whether we actually zeroed in on the budget and how much we're allocating for this. And I know we had conversations about that budget being also included with the MMD stuff. So, and I did read the local law again to see that the MMD has to get their own mapping, but it didn't
Yeah.
say, right? I'm not sure.
I think it's attorney, but I'll look it up right now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, maybe offline, what some of us can do is to form a little subcommittee to work on just the timeline, big picture timeline overall.
Speaking of which, the 24th of November is the day before Thanksgiving. I don't know if that has any impact on purchasing's ability to open bids that day. But that's how it would work out if it's 20 days after publication on November the 4th.
Good point.
They, just so you know, what they do is they open them and make sure that all the required pages are filled out, and then they stamp them received. So I could touch base with Karen Storm now.
so Pat, is the normal process that they will then notify us that all of the RFPs have been cleared to proceed?
Yes.
So it may seem like a easy answer, but that means we shouldn't start our review until we get that clearance.
You won't get them until they're clear. There's going to be, we're talking about pretty egregious mistakes are going to be kicked out, like literally missing things.
But I would think in that time frame where it's out, we're putting together who's doing the review and the
Yeah.
criteria, right?
We have to have the evaluation tool done before we can have them, so.
Right.
Does the evaluation tool need to go in the RFP?
It's already in there in terms of, sorry, the criteria, the proposal evaluation, who the evaluators are, does not have to be in there, but you have to decide that, and it has to be the same evaluators for all respondents or proposers. And literally, we'll make a spreadsheet, an Excel program that you put in 1 out of 5 or however you want to grade them. And then it will weight them according to the weights you have.
Right, but the actual evaluation tool, to Joan's point, is usually more specific than the rating percents put in the RFP. It's where you sort of elaborate more further. So there is a separate evaluation tool that would match up the 20% or whatever percent, but it's more detailed. Is that correct, Pat? And it doesn't have to be in the RFP.
The weight of the evaluating criteria does have to be in the RFP.
The weight, yes, I said the evaluation
Yeah.
tool.
I'm not sure what you mean. We may,
So, well, an elaborate tool that's, okay, if qualifications or experience is X%, how do we know, we need line items. You gotta create an evaluation tool that spells out.
Usually
what-
has more details on what
Yeah.
you're looking for so that you
Right.
can tick it off as you're going through it.
Right. And
I don't think that's-
specifically- Go ahead.
I don't think that's something that the county can have for us. I think that's something we're gonna have to develop ourselves. I would
Right.
suggest we
I think
we
that's
use
what
the time.
Warren's,
Yeah,
That's
and we use the
Right.
time
Right.
from when it goes out to bid to when they come back to get that firmed up.
I mean, I think we're all saying the same thing, that we have to develop something that makes it easy for whoever's evaluating to evaluate consistently. But I think to your point is whether that specifics needs to go in the RFP, and I do not think so either. What's in the RFP is the weights, whatever we come up with as the committee as a functional way of actually accomplishing that's our task between now and November 20th or whatever, right?
Correct. That's the way I see it.
So let me suggest this. I've got a couple of things here that will need to be reworked. I will do that. I'm going to suggest that we all plan on getting together again next Monday to finalize the RFP.
Larry, sorry to interrupt a second. What do you think needs to be reworked? So let's be clear on, I mean, in my review of it, what's the specifics that needs to be reworked, do we think?
Tom was talking about being more specific on the timetable.
Yep.
He was
Okay.
also suggesting referencing and including within the RFP itself, the local law. There was a third point that you had made, Tom.
Well, there was 3.4 and 3.5 we were making if.
Right, but those weren't
If
Tom's
applicable,
suggestions.
if applicable. was
Right.
Peter's
Yes,
suggestion. That works.
Right. I just wanted to make sure, sorry, Larry, just want to make sure we're all on the same page. That's all. Just a
And
little
that section-
recap helps.
Yeah, and that section 3 point that Joan brought up would have to be clarified because the references say you have to include, and if there are no municipal references, that would be sort of a deficit in the proposal.
yes, that's right. That's on my list, yes.
One last suggestion, Larry.
Yes, Joan.
You have federal state laws with redistricting in one place, and then you have mapping added in another place. And I'll send those to you just so there's some consistency in the language.
Okay.
And I just have one. Has everyone gotten their county Gmail or
Mail?
not Gmail? Can
Yeah.
because I'm getting emails in different emails. Can Caitlin possibly send one email with everybody linked in just with your county email, and that will be the only email we use from now going forward?
That would be great. 'cause
That way
it's
we're locked in.
Crazy town. with all
Yeah.
the-
Oh, did I miss
Hey.
one? Did I miss one over here? Did I miss one over there? If I know I'm
I thought I had done that with the email I sent out this morning.
But I think if she creates a distribution list, and we could reference it as a distribution list instead of having to pick, or we each create our own contact list. So that you have it all together as one, because that's what I was trying to do, but it's been a while since I've done Microsoft Office in this way.
I know I'm still getting the emails to my not county email,
Yes.
so
Understand.
something's going awry somewhere. So it'd be good if we could start clean. I agree.
Tom,
The opening question was whether we all had our Albany County email addresses, and I don't, because I was off in Ireland until the day before yesterday, but I will make that a priority and get that done this week.
And it really was easy. It took 5 minutes, and the gentleman who took care of it for me did a great job, sent the code, boom, 5 minutes, it was good to go.
my hands are out.
I'm sorry, Joan, you have yours? You're on mute.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Does anybody not besides Mr. Klingon? Leaf, do you? I just didn't see everyone respond.
I'm on, I have my email account. Just one clarification. I assume if we're getting for all of our further communications on the Albany County email list, do we have to sign on to Albany County in order to receive them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to see, and I don't know, Pat, you might know this offhand, whether there's a way to auto forward. So I'm not checking
Yes,
it.
there is.
Yeah, because I know that it's a issue for me that I have to remember to go sign in. And I know I also, just in general for these, I don't get a chance between last night and this meeting to see emails that, because I'm working. So if we could also talk about maybe making sure that we get things aligned by the night before. Otherwise, it's fine if we don't. I'm just going to always be a little behind because I don't get a chance with the work I'm doing to come in and have time to review during the day if stuff is happening. I don't know if others have the same challenge. Well, I know a lot of you. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good if we can auto forward it to, something that we check, often, I guess. Because I agree with you. You have to like get on there and then you have to, get a code to your phone if you're at a different computer and sign in again. And I don't like leaving it open either on my work computer. So I usually close it and then have to go through the whole process again. But
If I may ask, what's the auto forward feature? What does that do? How does that work?
So the auto forward, you set it up so that whenever you receive a message, that it forwards that message to another email account. And you put in what email account that is. So that if you are watching your email regularly on your non-Albany County, you will see that, oh, there's a message that came through on my Albany County email.
right.
And then I go to the Albany County email account to read it, I assume.
You can, go ahead.
You can have the entire email forwarded. So if it has any attachments, it'll all come over.
Okay.
I will say this, the county, it's not the county, it's actually Gmail. If you forward it to a Gmail account, it may fail. It's a Gmail issue. It's not, we face it all the time. If there's large attachments being sent to Gmail from the county's emails, they fail occasionally.
Okay.
Seems like it's two separate issues though, right, Patricia, that you're saying there's like people will forward or not forward or whatever. That's like an individual decision. But I agree with you. I mean, I work during the day on Mondays as well, and I don't typically have a chance to check any email while I'm at work. So if we could, I mean, I would be, yeah, well, I don't even get to check work email at work half the time, but whatever. I agree with you that it would be helpful if we were done with business before Monday business day. But if not, if we don't agree to that, then just I might be a beat behind as well.
Yep,
So I agree.
same with me.
Just to complete the thought I started, if I may, it would be very helpful, at least to me, to have auto forwarding, at least to give me a notice that something's happening in the email account.
You can
I'm
set
not-
that, you can set that up. Each individual can set that up for yourself on Outlook under settings. So you could do
Okay.
that if you
All
want that.
And Lee,
Yeah,
I think
I'm-
if you, go ahead.
I'm in the background here doing it. I'm not going to show my screen because we're recording. I apologize. Oh, that's also me. But because I have all my work emails in here, it's extremely straightforward. It is on the top right. If you're on the web interface, there's a little gear. You click that, and on the bottom it has view all Outlook settings, and one of the choices is then forwarding.
Good.
And it
Thank you.
just says enable forwarding, forward my email to, and you type in the email address.
Great, good. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
And Pat, I'm assuming that we can contact that same technology guy if we have any issues with the technology, correct?
Yes, and if you don't get any answers, let us know. And I expect them to give you answers, but if you have any issues, that's what we're certainly here to help you contact the county workforce.
Yeah,
It was
because
very helpful.
yeah, because I think administratively, I know that what we got wasn't just email. We got a SharePoint platform that allows us to share documents, which goes back to where Warren was talking last time with Google Docs versus now. I know Larry's been putting stuff into the Microsoft SharePoint, and that's another administrative piece that some people may not be familiar with using. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to that platform, which I think we are, that we have the support in case some of us don't know how to do that.
The SharePoint would be great because we can edit stuff together.
Correct.
then, as long as whoever posts the original thing shares permissions with everybody on the list. But yeah, I mean, I find that super useful in other venues. So I think that would be great.
Yeah, and I think Larry, when you posted the agenda for today, it wasn't with edit or comment capabilities, and that would have been good because I'm gonna consider adding a few things as I've seen it very quickly before I came in here.
Yeah. The same thing with the addresses. Like we could all just put in our own contact info and you don't have to play secretary and have a million emails of write my name in. We can just do it ourselves, which is great.
I think that the whole concept of emails, in my mind anyway, raises the overall issue of transparency and kind of auditability of our actions. And I think that using the county email is very important. It's keeping it all in one place where if anybody wants to track what it is that we did, all of that would be available without going to all of our private emails. So I think that that's important. I think that we need to come to some sort of conclusion on whether we need to do some sort of an announcement of when we're meeting and to post some sort of notes or the recordings or something about what it is that we have discussed and done. And then going beyond that, even, I think we really do need to start thinking about our first public hearing as well. Because I think before we get too deep into things that we're going to want to at least have one opportunity for the residents of the county to say what it is that's important to them. Patricia?
Yeah, this was exactly where I was going to go with the agenda item, because as a person who's been very closely following the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission, I think if you took a look at their website, I was assuming that we would build out something similar. So it includes bios of who the commissioners are. It includes meetings that are published and links to the recordings and everything else. But I thought that we definitely should think about whether similar to them, they had what we had as listening sessions before they supposedly drew the maps. And we are by the legislation we are supposed to do 4 hearings. But that I don't know if it really, I'd have to look again at the law, but I would think that was post-map drawing.
It's both, I believe.
Okay,
I think you're soliciting input, and then there's 4 of them, as you said. I'm looking it up. Hold on. And just note that this law predated COVID, so it didn't contemplate at all virtual meetings. As far as I could tell, there wouldn't be any issue with that. I could see that New York State is doing all of theirs virtually, even though they are tied to different county locations.
they're doing them both virtual and in person for the mandated public hearings that the Constitution requires. They're doing them both.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they are. They are. But I thought as well, I want to bring this up because I think we do have to work through some of the MMD stuff. I would suggest that we have a single county redistricting page, whether it's that same page where people signed up now for, to become a commissioner or not, that the MMD stuff is embedded in the same page and not separate. As much as we can collaborate and overlap would be advantageous, I think, for all of us.
Great.
So our IT department did create the questionnaire that you all filled out, and that portion of our website that essentially requests the applications. If you give them the language, they can put it together. So whatever you want it to look like, it can be done most likely.
So Larry, may I make a suggestion? Just given on what we need to do in the timeline around it, we're sort of single threading and these meetings are only an hour. So maybe what we can consider is to divide and conquer and do some homework outside of these meetings and then bring it back for people to then say, yes, go forward with that, or no, adjust this or whatever. Because as I said, I'm a big timeline person. I got to know my parameters. I got a budget. I got to know my budget and how we're managing that. But there's also, just to be successful as a team, we have to have our administrative practices as well. So those are the kinds of things that maybe we can work through outside of these meetings and then come back with. And I raised my hand to take one, and maybe I'll take the website one, just because I'm extremely familiar with the New York State one, or, whatever. But if we think about dividing and conquering, it might make us much more efficient when we have our time together. Because as you can see, we got 15 minutes left, 14, and we still have a lot of ground to cover.
Yes, we do. Thank you. I think that's a good suggestion. And I think that other items that fall into that category, one is the overall timetable. And I think it would be very good if someone would take on responsibility for a first draft. I mean, all of these, at least my experience is the first putting of type onto screen is the hardest part, and the editing becomes something that is easier to do as a group process. So if someone would be willing to take the lead on developing a timetable, given the parameters that we've been talking about of the goal being a June completion, and I don't know if we talk about fallback from there, but of what we need to get done between now and then. I think that would be very helpful if someone would be willing to take the laboring oar on the evaluation tool. That I think that would be very helpful. And Warren, you seem to have some fairly discrete thoughts on the evaluation tool? Would you be willing to take that one on as a first draft?
I would, and I was eager to know if there was an evaluation tool created the last time, because it was a little unclear when Pat was responding to that earlier. You know, you obviously want to start from something that's already been created. If we have it, we looked at the template of the RFP, and I would think there was an evaluation tool completed the last time.
You got to remember, we've never done redistricting attorneys or mappers through the RFP process, but I'll call the Department of Law tomorrow and see if they have one.
Thanks.
So the earlier RFP sample we were given, was it 2012? It wasn't, that was for council for redistricting, I thought.
No, that was, I started editing it.
Defense counsel.
Oh,
It
okay.
was outside counsel. That one was either, I forget what lawsuit it was, but
Okay.
it was from a defense for the county.
Okay, well, if you can't find one, you said there was none before, but I'll, if you can give me something, if you can find it, but
Yep.
all right, thank you.
And Larry, I'll take the building the straw structure for a timeline. You know, I'll
Okay,
get
super.
I'll get that down on paper and then we can amend it. I know it's a lot of it's going to be based on, you know, just thinking in my head is the how long the mapper will take, you know, that kind of thing, because that he will be that company will be the driving force for us, really. But I'll get something on paper and then we can adjust as we move forward.
Terrific.
I just want to note it's 4:50 and you do have some, well, I don't know if there's an agenda, but you do have some other items if you want to cover them.
What specifically did you have in mind, Pat?
Javon, you sent that email, right?
Yes, sir. I sent the email with, oh, well, first of all, I'm Javon Williams, the policy analyst for the Legislative Black Caucus. I sent everybody an email in regards to Chairman Clay's subcommittee recommendations, and that's the MMD subcommittee I'm referring to.
Right. Yeah, I have not had a chance to review it yet, Javon.
I haven't seen that email. Where did you send it to?
I believe I sent it to everybody's personal email or whatever
I-
email log we
I-
were.
I just looked at my email. I don't have anything.
I'll forward it
got it
right now to
earlier.
everybody's county. And Mr. Klingon, I'll send it to your personal.
Let me just see. Yeah, oh, okay, that's the issue. I sent it to everybody's county email, looks like.
I just checked there. I didn't see it.
Let me just make sure. Hold on one second. Yeah, it looks like everybody's county email, but I will ensure that everybody sees it. But the-
Javon, could you give us an idea of what was in the email just verbally right now?
Yeah, it was William Clay's 3 recommendations, which are Marie Allen Campbell, Adrienne Smith Kissy, and Joanna Neighbors. And
Has
within
their resumes.
yep, and their resumes and the questionnaire. And I believe Adrienne Smith Kissy was the only one that submitted a cover letter. So all of that is included within that email.
Yeah, that's
And those 3
235.
will then choose the other 4 to get the commission, the subcommittee complete, right?
Pat, is that accurate, or is it the commission and the MMD subcommittee?
Yep, yes. The 3, just as you did, will appoint the remaining 4.
Okay.
Thanks, Javon.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
And I just did get the email from Pat, as Pat forwarded.
Okay. Good.
So you may want to invite them to your next meeting, and we can do that on your behalf. Just so they get a sense of how you're working through the process so far.
Are those 3 recommendations or appointments?
Recommendations.
Oh, okay.
I thought they were
No, they're
appointments.
appointments. No,
So
I
the
really
law,
thought they were
Mr.
appointments.
Clay gets to appoint 3.
So
After
law
a ca-
uses
the
the
law
word rec-
says, The law says after a countywide solicitation of potential appointees, the chair of the LBC shall make advisory recommendations to the chair and members of the commission regarding qualified candidates to serve on the MMD subcommittee. The commission members, by a majority vote, appoint 3 representatives who shall serve on the MMD subcommittee. Subsequently, those members, after examining the recommendations of the chair of the LBC, shall select the remaining members of the MMD subcommittee by a majority vote. The MMD subcommittee shall select its own leadership by voting on a chairperson at its first meeting.
It sounds like it's pro forma, though. If he's made his 3 recommendations, those are the 3, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't, the interesting thing is we don't see the other candidates, right?
That's what I thought they would give us.
I thought so too.
Like we went with 6 or 7 or 8 and some dropped out. He could have sent us 5 and we picked 3, but
It's the same pool as that you chose from.
Right.
Yeah, but only the rest of us didn't see that pool,
Oh, all right.
right? So, I mean, I'm fine with looking at 3, but it would be better if I see the 3 that he recommends and probably would go with that, you know, okay. But to see the broader pool and just validate rather than just rubber stamp.
and that's an excellent way to put it, Patricia. Validate instead of rubber stamp. You know, that's really all it is.
But now, if I understand this correctly, the other people he considered were also the people that we all saw and considered when we made our selections, right? So at least some of us have already seen the whole universe of them.
But we didn't all see them, right?
The
Tom,
4
only the-
original ones of us saw them, right?
Yeah, only
Yes.
4 original. The other 5 didn't see the whole group.
Okay. What would it take to get those resumes? They were all in a folder that Pat shared with us.
Yeah,
It
I gotta
seems like it
just-
shouldn't be hard to do
We
that.
can do
right,
that
Pat?
for you.
Yeah, I just got to share that folder with all your county emails, and I'm
But
Okay.
you really should talk to Mr. Clay about all this. So yeah, I would hate to spite him and say, oh, look, we're going to pick somebody other than, you know, it should be explained why we're looking at others and just not rubber stamping, you know?
Yeah, because that was not what was shared at the very first meeting we had. So I think there's some confusion. But thank you for reading that, Patricia, because it clears it up perfectly.
Yeah, Javon, can you take that back to legislator Clay and explain, or do you need us to do something more formally?
I can take that back to Chairman Clay, and then if he has any questions or need anybody to specify, we can invite him to one of these meetings, if that's okay.
Okay, so what's our next, I guess there's plenty on the agenda. What's the next one?
actually, that was the only one I knew about. So
We're actually rapidly approaching our witching hour. I will make sure to do the sharing so that everyone can edit what I post. I will do the revisions of the RFP. I will also share on the contact list. And we should plan on meeting again next Monday at 4 o'clock.
Okay, just real quick, Larry, everything's going to be
Yes,
done
Mark.
moving forward on SharePoint, correct? We're not going to go Google Docs or anything. So everything will be on SharePoint as we move forward.
That's all within the platform of the county's email. So I think it makes the most sense to do it that way.
No, that I think that's excellent. And so we all know we're on SharePoint and we're all on county email. I think we're good to go.
Yeah, I would just note, if you do that forward to your email, do not reply all from that email. Okay, it'll screw things up. So you can look, but go back into your county email to do any more communications, because otherwise things will go horribly awry.
All right, well, good point. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great week.
Thank
Did
you.
you schedule the next
See ya.
meeting? Is it Monday? Or
Monday,
you
Monday
just-
at 4.
Monday
what
at
I
4.
understand, right?
Okay.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
week, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.